Welcome back to our very special Lucy Simon celebration. This is episode 5, In the Works. We are thrilled to welcome Tony Award-winning lyricist Susan Birkenhead, Tony Award-winning actor and director Victoria Clark, director, playwright, and associate director Emily Mann, and our host, former Rolling Stone writer, editor, and Broadway producer Loraine Boyle. Today we explore Lucy's new project, On Cedar Street, a musical adaptation of Kent Haruf's book, Our Souls at Night. Let's begin.
This morning we're going to talk about Lucy Simon's next project, which she's been working on with Emily Mann, Susan Birkenhead, and Victoria Clark. And they're all here with us. Emily, I think you started the ball on this. Am I right or not? You and Lucy. Tell us about that.
Yes, Lucy and I did, but Lucy started it. She asked Michael Weller to introduce us. We'd always wanted to meet, and we did at an event, and she said, I want to do a musical with you. And I thought, oh my, I was very surprised. But we looked into each other's eyes and we thought, yes, we must work together. And I adored her work and she seemed to like mine. And so we started looking for what the story would be. It was Lucy who came up with Our Souls at Night by Kent Haruf. And it was then that we wanted to bring Susan on board as lyricist, and to begin with, Victoria Clark as our leading lady. And then she said, yes, maybe, and she talked about wanting to be directing. And Lucy and I fell in love with Vicky and her thoughts about the play, and everyone I talked to said she was an astounding director, and we went, well, let's go. So that's how it began.
Okay, so you started with this book, which was, I guess, a popular book when it came out, and it was made into a movie with Jane Fonda and Robert Redford. But why did it lend itself to a musical? I don't know.
Well, that was my question when I was asked to join, and I was skeptical because it didn't feel like a musical to me. I asked a lot of questions and said, we have to find the conflict. We have to read the material, digest it, and throw it away and create our own musical, which we did. We're blessed with Vicky, who has a great dramaturgical sense, and Emily has too, because Emily is also, a director and a writer. And so we sort of hammered out this story, which does depart. In fact, we went further and used a lot of material from other Kent Haruf books. Vicky, you should certainly speak about this.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're all very multitasky, and one of the reasons I love this group. Well, all of us are moms, right? And we've all had at least one husband. Some of us have had two.
Too.
So I feel like, and we're all, of a certain age, and we all just were simpatico about our own experiences and felt enough trust and safety within the group to share why we were drawn to the material. And so I think it reflects life experience and the wisdom of 4 women who want our stories to be told, because there's, as we know, a lot of ageism and sexism going on, and as well as to create a piece that would involve older actors. There's not a lot of work for actors over 50 or 55, and our show at the moment has at least 5 roles for people over 60, and probably 7 or 8 roles for people over 50. And we were really committed to that and to telling a story about 2 people finding love who never thought they were going to find love again. And the other thing about this team, which is incredible, is that everybody started as an actor or a singer. So Emily and Susan, when we read through material, I just divvy up the parts and let them read it. And hearing the authors speak the lines and speak the lyrics and sing really informs the piece and helps me hear how they envision the piece. So I feel that their background as actors is really critical to this piece.
And how does Lucy's music enter into this, Susan?
Well, Lucy and I worked together over the years, a lot of years. We actually worked on 4 shows. So I am very familiar with Lucy's music, and we have always written together very easily. It's funny, if there are any clashes in the creative process, it has to do with differences in aesthetics or in, you know, we have 2 different sensibilities, but when we come together to write music, it's the easiest collaboration I think I've ever had. But also in talking about these people who live in Colorado and the High Plains and the story, I realized that Lucy and I had a treasure chest of wonderful songs that we had once done for a musical called Prairie that was never done for a variety of reasons having to do with book and several book writers, and that we should mine some of that material if it was still usable, and you know, we could just lift the music out and write new lyrics for it. And so we explored some of that stuff, and Prairie Rose is, you know, chief among those songs. But there are a couple of others that, you know, it was a great score, and we always regretted the fact that it never really made its way to the stage.
There's still time.
I have to say also for me coming on, I've only done one musical before this, all black musical with Ntozake Shange and by Keita Carroll in the 80s and early 90s. And so it was exciting for me to learn from the A-team of musical theater how to write a book for the theater. And what I loved about working with all 3 women is their encouragement of allowing the characters to be as complex as they would be in a play. Mm-hmm. And that we could, in fact, have room for both real and complicated characters, real scenes. Mm-hmm. And then what I found thrilling was how they would, as I think it was Susan who said, yes, we're going to cannibalize your scenes and make songs here. And I found the whole process so thrilling. And because I also like to use very spare language when I write, they were also encouraging of that, so that the least amount of my dialogue is being used to launch these incredible songs by Susan and Lucy. So that's been a thrilling part of the process for me, and wonderful to know that, you know, I'm going to encourage my playwright friends, if they haven't been writing books for musicals, because they, you know, so many of us think, oh, well, it's all about the songs, and you know, the books are often, you know, so thin. It doesn't have to go that way. I mean, and so it's just been a great process.
Yeah, I have to say, I think you're a natural at this, Emily. I really do, and I hope you keep finding musicals to write, because it is so much more than just the dialogue, right? You need someone who's great at structure and story, and someone who really is mapping an arc of a story. And you're really good at it. You're really good at it. And just to have, just to know where the songs come and go. And 90% of what we've done, or 100%, we started during the pandemic. And so we've only been in person together maybe half a dozen times at the most, just, you know, maybe 5. And it's everything else has been done over Zoom and sending each other material. And that part has been really challenging. But also, somehow we've been able to create an incredible amount of work, and we're already at the point where we've had a reading. We submitted to the O'Neill Festival and made it to the very end, made it to the top 4 musicals out of musicals that were submitted from all over the world, hundreds of musicals. We were given a reading, a virtual reading by the wonderful Signature Theater in DC. Virginia. So, we're chugging right along. And now, we've gotten to the point in rewrites where we've, had several songs for certain slots. And so it's, when people stand up and talk about how they worked on their musical and say, oh, it took us 7 years. We know why. It's because, it's a process.
So you have a new name for it, don't you? It's not Our Souls at Night anymore, or you're still working on?
No.
That's still...
The title has been kind of an odyssey. We've gone through a journey with the title. We've tried out different things. Right now, we like On Cedar Street because the two people that meet, Addie and Lewis, live on the same street, but they never really interacted before. They happen to live across the street from each other. Also, there's a tragedy that happened on that street that involves Addie and her family. And so a lot happens on this one street. And it's a typically iconic American kind of title on Cedar Street. So we know it's an American story. So that's the one that's the front runner for now. And I think Lucy favors that title at the moment as well.
Susan, you first did a song with her for My Name is Alice, right? A very long time ago. Is that right?
That's how we met. Well, actually, a woman named Joan Micklin Silver, a film director, was going to wanted to do a musical of her movie, and she called me and she called Lucy and she put us together. And although that musical never came to pass, I mean, it was
that Hester Street?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that.
She said, but I'm doing this show by, for, and about women, and we'd like you and Lucy to write a song. So I have to say, and Lucy will agree, we wrote a great song because we started to think, well, what experience has almost every woman on this planet had? And at the risk of, shocking some people, almost every woman I know at some point in her life has had some sort of experience with a married man. Not necessarily a hot and heavy affair, but it's almost universal. And so we wrote this great song called Happy Birthday, Joe, from the point of view of the other woman who misses all the important time, the birthdays and the holidays. It was a great song. We played it for them. And them being Joan Micklin Silver and Julianne Boyd, who were producing it. And Joan Micklin Silver leaped up and she said, never, I'll never allow this song. And we looked at each other and we said, but it's a great song. And she said, never. So clearly something pushed a
button. A little trigger there.
And she said, we'll assign you a song. We'll just assign you a song. And they assigned us a song about male strippers. And I thought,
oh, no.
I'm out of here.
Oh, no, what a terrible story.
I said to Lucy, no, we are not going to go to this club they want us to go to. I just won't go. And if they want a song about male strippers, we're going to write a goddamn funny song about male strippers. And so we did.
What's the title, Susan?
All the Pretty Young Men.
Well, we all have to find that and listen to it.
I know that song.
Absolutely.
I can't even remember it, but it was just, these women. I don't even know if it would make me laugh if I heard it now, but so that was kind of crazy.
I met Lucy doing the original workshop of The Secret Garden. I played Martha, who was Mary's friend, who, like the Yorkshire girl and her little brother is Dickon.
Right, the house, the maid,
so we workshopped it up in Saratoga, and then we did the first production at Norfolk, in Norfolk, Virginia, at Norfolk Stage, I think. And that's as far as I went with the show.
But you were in the show we did together. You were in the show that Lucy and I.
Yes, I had kind of crazy agents at the time. So when our director was kind of let go from the project, and so a new director was brought in, and she wanted to see all of us because she hadn't seen the production. But I had a crazy agent who said, "Oh, you will not go on an audition for her." I said, "Why not? She doesn't know me." But he advised me not to, and she's like, "Sorry, I can't cast you." So I lost that job, and wonderful Allison Fraser took over and was nominated for Tony, and she did an astonishing job. And she had such a great take on that part. It was like nothing I was doing. So, God bless. She was incredible. But then Lucy and Susan and I worked on a project up at where was that?
Long Wharf.
Called Fanny Hackabout Jones.
Oh, yeah.
With Erica Jong. Right? And so that's where I met Susan.
So Emily, you're the newest friend of Lucy in a way. You just met her a few years ago, right?
I am.
Before the pandemic.
That's right. We became fast friends, really close friends immediately. We sort of, as I said, we sort of fell into each other's eyes, and it was sort of love. And the first thing I did was invite her. I was then still artistic director of the McCarter Theater Center in Princeton. And every year I did a writer's retreat. So I invited Lucy to come, and we had 10 days together, and we wrote up a storm. I mean, I wrote the first 25 or so pages, and Lucy wrote 4 songs. And a lot of that is still in. We were just on fire. It was also then that we realized how much we needed a director, and we needed Susan. We needed a lyricist. A lot of what Lucy wrote was wonderful. We knew.
I was going to say the opening scene is pretty much intact from your first draft.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it is.
The spark of what you two created by yourselves really it lit the fire for the whole piece.
It did.
And really, you guys knew how you wanted to launch the story. And then once Susan came in, we found an opening number that kind of sets the stage for the whole project. And we
and we mapped it out. We really got to know who the people were. We then ended up adding the brothers, and but we already knew the conflict with her son. We already knew the pain, deep inside her from her loss that we're not going to reveal here. I'm not going to do a spoiler alert.
No.
And we didn't quite have the ending, but we had pretty much through, if you want to break it into 3 acts, which one always does as a playwright, and even though you might then end up cutting at the midpoint or whenever, but the first 2 acts are pretty much the same bones. So we got very far in 10 days, yeah.
If I may, what Susan really brings to the collaboration, well, Susan is just got this kick-ass sense of humor, and
Right.
and also just a refreshing way of staying sort of current and present in this zeitgeist. And believe me, it has changed so many times since we've been working together. When we met, we had this cultural revolution and the murder of George Floyd. I mean, that all happened as we were working, and the world was turning upside down. And Susan brings, this great point of view that keeps us from getting too sincere and too warm and fuzzy. She just keeps it really alive and keeps our story really kinetic, which is I think it's a great mix of sensibilities that we have.
It's what Susan talked about in the beginning, how in some ways there are opposite sensibilities combust and make for
great theater. Yeah. Well,
But Vicki and I are a lot about funny. We kept saying, funny,
both of
we
you.
need funny. So
yeah, they both would say to me and Lucy, funnier, please.
Yeah, we do need it. We need to laugh.
because we know that life is not all earnest, life is messy. And even in the midst of tragedy, people laugh and find
Absolutely.
funny things. And so it has to be
Especially
reflected in the theater.
Especially in the midst of tragedy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about survival. I'm very excited that this is an all-women project, and dare I say it, since I'm one of them too, women of a certain age who understand more about life than some of these younger playwrights, I think. So I'm looking forward to seeing this on stage.
I just want to say that Lucy has, very generously and wisely decided to bring in a collaborator to finish the score and to assist in finishing the project. And so we are now working with Carmel Dean, who is an incredible composer. And I just wanted to give her a shout out to say that, we feel so blessed to have her as part of the team. And now she's our fifth woman. And, Deborah Abramson also worked with us for a long time and did some incredible arrangements and some incredible work. And so we've had our piece has been touched by some really magical people, and we feel very grateful for that and for their contribution.
And I thank you so much for giving us your time to pay tribute to Lucy and her music.
I've worked with so many composers over the years, and Lucy has a unique gift. And I think her gift is sort of mapping the course of an emotional progression. And she really knows what the heart sounds like and what relationships sound like. And she's able to paint love and affection and all kinds of emotions quite eloquently with music. And that is, I think, one of her greatest gifts.
Melody has always been my emotional language. It is my God. It is the prehistoric, ancient, mysterious depths of the sea language. I always know where I'm going if I let melody take me there. From the time I was a child, I could count on it to bring me home. I still can. Somehow I can translate into my source and find the way it should sound for my particular emotion. It helped me write my first song. In 7th grade, I had to recite a poem in front of my class. I chose Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, but I couldn't memorize it without a melody. Since then, it has been recorded by many, and Carly and I had a hit single with it. I guess there's some good aspects of being dyslexic.
Thank you for listening to this final episode of the special Lucy Simon celebration. If you haven't already, we encourage you to go back and listen to the previous episodes from this 5-episode series. Tremendous thanks to our guests Susan Birkenhead, Victoria Clark, Emily Mann, and episode host Loraine Boyle, with narration by me, Lucy Boyle. This episode is produced by Dory Berenstein, Alan Seals, and Kimberly Garris for the Broadway Podcast Network. Executive producers are Loraine Boyle and Liz Armstrong. Associate producer is Henny Konisberg. This series is edited by Alan Seals and Dory Berenstein. Thank you to Victoria Traub, Sean Flavin, and Concord Music for their support and partnership on this very special project. Find out more about Lucy Simon, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and more ways to listen to this podcast by visiting bpn.fm/Lucy Simon.